Welcome to your final lecture for this course. This week you'll learn how to edit your research paper so it's ready for submission. Are you ready to get started? Let's begin. As you know by now, editing and revising are two different processes. When you revise something, you're likely to make considerable changes in your work. After you revise, when it is time to edit, you're looking for smaller errors in things like spelling, punctuation, and mechanics. For example, you might read over an entire paragraph, think to yourself, what in the world was I thinking when I wrote this? And rewrite the paragraph altogether. This is revising. But if you look at a paragraph you wrote earlier and really like it, but find one spelling error, this is editing. Revising and editing are both important. You should never submit a paper without completing both crucial steps. But remember, revising has to come before editing. I'll briefly mention some editing tips, but you should consult your textbook for a more comprehensive list. First of all, keep a dictionary and thesaurus nearby when you're writing your paper, so you don't reuse the same words over and over again. Take a look at the example below. Daniel and James are going to a fun holiday party on Thursday. There will be fun games, fun costumes, and fun prizes. Overall, I think the party is going to be really fun. Do you see how many times the word fun is used in the example above? When writing, it's good to have variety in your words, so you don't bore your reader and come across as articulate and intelligent. When writing, it's good to have variety in your words, so you don't bore your reader and come across as articulate and intelligent. Take a look at the same example with some different adjectives thrown in. Daniel and James are going to a holiday party on Thursday. There will be fun games, unique costumes, and silly prizes. Overall, I think the party's going to be really great. Do you see how much easier the example is to read now that there are words other than fun being used to describe the party? And you also get a better sense of the party. Sure, it will be fun, but because of the unique costumes and silly prizes, you can see why it's fun. Read your essay out loud so you can catch errors that might not normally stand out. When you read something silently, it's easy to confuse words and not notice small typos. When you read out loud, however, you actually hear the words that are displayed on the page, and you're able to tell right away if something is out of place or just doesn't sound right. You should also be on the lookout for mistakes you know you have a history of making. For example, I often have difficulty with verb tense in my writing. So when I edit a paper, I make sure to pay special attention to the tenses of my verbs, so my writing is consistent and easy to understand. An important note to keep in mind is that you should always read your paper one last time after editing it. This part of the writing process is called proofreading. When you proofread, you're reading the final draft of your paper and looking out for typos or other careless errors. You can think of proofreading as the final edit. Sometimes when we spend hours analyzing an essay and tweaking it so the wording is just right, the last thing we want to do is read it just one more time. But failing to do so can be detrimental to your essay. Although typos aren't as serious as, say, forgetting to include a thesis in your paper, typos are easy to notice, and your paper might come off as sloppy or hastily put together if you fail to check it one last time. Your textbook recommends that you proofread your paper from the end to the beginning. This helps you see things differently. I also recommend putting your paper aside for a few hours, or even an entire day or more if you have the time. Letting the paper sit off your mind will allow you to see it from a fresh angle when you return to it. If you catch large issues that you want to change, such as, I'm not sure this idea fits into my paper, you might be in trouble. This is a sign that you're not ready for editing and proofreading. You're still revising. Your proofread should literally be the final look you take to make sure everything is just right. Your title is centered, your page numbers are in place, your citations are perfect, and things like this. To help prepare you for the editing phase of your paper, take a look at the example below and see if you can come up with any words or phrases that would make the writing stronger and clearer. Think about everything you learned thus far in the course. How can those concepts be applied to the example? The smell of fresh baked cookies is delicious. When I smell cookies baking in the oven, I get so hungry I can hardly stand it. I love biting into the chewy center of a cookie, especially when there is chocolate inside. Nothing goes better with cookies than a glass of soy milk. I like cookies better than all other desserts, especially zucchini bread. Does anything stand out about the example above? Can you think of any changes you would make to make the writing easier to understand? Remember, you should use a variety of words in your writing. Repeating the same word leaves no room for an exciting mental image. How would you rewrite the example above? My revision is below. The changes are in red. The smell of freshly baked cookies is delicious. When I smell the sugary dough baking in the oven, I get so hungry my mouth starts watering. I love biting into the cookies' chewy centers, especially when there is gooey melted chocolate inside. Nothing goes better with chocolate chip cookies than a glass of icy cold soy milk. When it comes to dessert, cookies take the cake. No pun intended. Do you see how the changes I made make the paragraph much more interesting and specific? First of all, the word cookie was used too many times in my original draft, so I also came up with words that were more descriptive. When writing about something like cookies, you want your reader to relate to what you're saying. It's perfectly safe to say that most people enjoy the taste of cookies, so my goal was to evoke an image that would make a reader say, "Yum, that sounds good. I kind of want a cookie right now." Did it work for you? Before we wrap up our final lecture, I want to take a few moments to remind you to make sure your paper is formatted correctly. By now, the standard format of an essay has practically been drilled into your head. Just to be safe, let's go over it one last time. Your essay should consist of an introductory paragraph, 3 supporting paragraphs, and a conclusion. You must also complete a bibliography that includes information about all of the materials you use to research your topic.